Good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining me today. Well, we're going to talk about, now that you've got your PPL and EIDL funding, what do you do now? Well, I'm going to talk about what are some of the things you should be doing with your funds, or what some things to be thinking about. And I'm also going to talk about some of the things that you should maybe think about for your business just going forward, what you should be able to do with this now. But first, let's review kind of the PPL and EIDL loans in the first place. Remember, on the PPPL loan, you're able to get a loan amount of 2.5 times your payroll, which included payroll only, no 1099 income. There's a potential forgiveness on this. Everybody knows it's forgiveness, but you have to spend it on 75% of payroll and 25% on mortgage interest rent and other things, but I'll cover that a little bit. And then there's an 8-week look back period for the forgiveness part. And I'll talk about that a little bit more. And as you know, things change every day. And again, it's changed again on appropriations. Both the PPP and the EIDL loan are no longer taking applications because they have had a lapse in appropriations, which means they've run out of funds. So and this is I'm going to talk about that you've already got it, not about what you should be doing for the application part. EIDL loan, if you have your application in, remember there was a $10,000 grant, but that grant was only paid out if it was assigned to a loan officer and that you got acceptance on that. And then it was only for $1,000 per employee up to the $10,000. Again, on the company size, it was less than 500 employees. And again, on the appropriations, I've just seen this morning that both PPP and EIDL loans are no longer appropriated. They have a lapse of appropriation, so that now they're probably going to have to have a fourth bill to do some more money if they want to keep these programs going. Have you got funded? If you're not funded, do you have your application in, and are you talking to your banker? What that means is that don't just assume that they're constantly working on you. They are swamped as well. You need to keep in contact with your banker every day. Make sure that they know that you're still wanting to get these funds, and do it every day. Do it daily. When you're doing it daily, they may say, well, I need this piece of information, that piece of information. Get them the information they need as soon as possible so that they can get your application funded. Are you funded? Some things to think about. Separate bank account. Do you want to set up a separate bank account so you just spend the funds that are eligible for the forgiveness in that bank account only? Remember that 8-week time frame. Well, that starts as soon as the money is funded to your account. So if, as an example, if you've got funded today, the 8-week period starts today, and then you have to start analyzing when you've got payroll, when you don't. Now let's talk about the forgiveness. Again, the general rule is 75% payroll, 25% rent, utilities, and mortgage interest. Now remember though, one of the big things about the PPP loan is that their goal was to maintain employee levels. So part of the forgiveness is not only the amount of payroll you pay, but they're also going to look at to make sure that you've kept your same employee levels that you did before all this coronavirus COVID-19 stuff started. So keep that in mind as you're looking at planning out your payroll and everything for the next 8 weeks. Repayment. So if you don't get it all forgiven, there is a repayment. It's at a 0.5% interest rate. It's a 2-year payback, and the first payment isn't due until November. So if you get funded now, it's basically like a 2.5-year loan. But before you get to that forgiveness part, remember, I would suggest only spending those funds on what are eligible for forgiveness during the 8-week period, which would be payroll, rent, mortgage interest, and utilities. Only spend that money on that. That's why having a separate bank account is pretty nice to have, because then you can just say, here's my payroll, take it out. Here's my rent, take it out. Here's my utilities, take it out, etc. So that you don't get in trouble later on. Going on. Next, you have the funding. What should you be doing next? Again, you have the money. Do you have the means to do a separate bank account? Does it make sense? If you can do it, it's just going to be during this 8-week time frame. You know, you got this 8-week time frame. Using those funds, again, only use those funds for what is eligible for forgiveness, and make sure to document as what you need. Go to your bank and say, okay, I'm in my 8-week period. When I'm done for forgiveness, what documentation are you going to need from me so that I can get this, as much of this loan forgiven as possible? Now, the other part of the forgiveness is, I'll talk about a little bit more, but I'll bring it up now, is the taxability part of it. On the federal side, it's not taxable, but not every state has what they call a rolling conformity with the federal tax laws. They have a static conformity, which means as of this date, we conform with tax laws. So a lot of those states did that at the end of last year. If they haven't met, if their legislature hasn't met, there's potential that some states could have this loan forgiveness as being taxable. And Minnesota is one of those states. They have a static conformity with the federal government, which means effective as of 12/31/19, they're in conformity, but this is 2020 and they haven't met about this yet. They haven't been in session yet to meet about this. So, excuse me here. So some things to think about with the funding. When do I rehire? Do you rehire before or after the stay is lifted? You know, that's something you're going to have to do. You're going to have to decide when you think you can bring your employees back to do things. Now remember, you can bring your employees back. They don't have to do what they were doing before. You could bring them back saying, you may have thoughts in your mind that saying, you know, I've always wanted to do this within the business, but we've never had time. Well, if you're not that busy, you can bring the employees back, pay them for their time, and reconform or redo your business. You can do, I mean, you literally could be doing painting, cleaning, rearranging how the office is set up, implementing new policies and procedures to train your employees. I mean, you can do a whole bunch of things right now while this time is done that can be to your advantage for when this stay is lifted and that your business is ready to be open. Now, one of the problems you have is your employees may not want to come back because some of them may be making more on unemployment than they were before because they get the state unemployment. Right now, they're getting the $600 a week from the federal. They're not having taxes withheld, although they should be because they're both taxable items. And they're not having Social Security and Medicare withheld because these items aren't subject to Medicare and Social Security. So this is still taxable income to them, but their net take-home pay may look better because they didn't set up the withholdings and whatever else. So what to do if your employees don't come back? You need to document. You need to document saying, I offered this employee a job to come back. They turned me down. Now, it's your choice. I can't say what's right or wrong, but I think you're supposed to let the unemployment division know that you did offer him a job back and they did not accept it. Whether they have other issues such as daycare and everything else, that comes into play. But if you've offered them a job and they say, no, I don't want to come back because unemployment's too high, document it and make sure that you are covered, especially on the forgiveness part. Document. That's why during that 8-week period, my suggestion still is only pay back. I only use those funds for what items are to be forgiven during that 8-week period. If after the 8-week period, after you get all your forgiveness and everything done with the bank and you decide you're going to use those funds for other things, then you're going to have a payback. But you may decide at the end of the 8-week period, I have a $100,000 loan, I only get $75,000 forgiven. You may decide to pay back the $25,000 that's left. And there's nothing that says you can't do that. There's no prepayment penalties, nothing else to do. Now, the next thing to think about is what is your reopen plan? Are you going to try to ramp up right before the stay-at-home is lifted? Are you going to open up slowly? You're going to open up at full speed? I mean, you have lots of things to think about when the stay-at-home is lifted. Slowly, full speed. And that's probably going to also determine when you bring your employees back. If you're going to try to open at full speed, you're probably going to want to bring your employees back a little bit earlier so that everything's ready to go when that stay-at-home order is lifted and your business can start functioning again. Is everything going to come back at full speed? Probably not, because it's been a whole month, and with the May 4th, if it does get lifted, That's 6 weeks of people being totally, their habits have changed. It's going to take them a while to either get back to their, back into full speed of everything, or they may never come back because their habits have changed. You have to take that into account. You have to plan for that. The other thing that you need to change is what if opening changes? And what I mean by that is, what if the stay-at-home is extended? So if your opening date changes because the stay-at-home extended, what are you going to do? You maybe have brought these employees back thinking you're going to open May 4th, and now you're not. Now you have to worry about, do you keep the employees on? Are you still in your 8-week period? You've got all sorts of things to think about. So make sure to be planning for that period of when you plan to reopen. Don't just say, oh, everything's going to come back to normal. Don't do that. You need to have a plan. And remember, everything is changing day to day to day. You have to flow with those changes. You have to make a plan. Tomorrow it may not work. You may have to readjust that plan of what you're doing. Just a little thing in here. The pessimist sees difficulty in every opportunity. The optimist sees opportunity in every difficulty. This is from Winston Churchill. You need to think about that. During times of recessions or during times of difficulty, 70% of the businesses started up in those times. So you may see difficulty right now, but there also may be lots of opportunities out there for you to expand your business, to change your business for the better, to, just think about those things that you can do that may be changing to help you when your business does reopen. Don't think of this as a difficult time. Think of this as an opportunity, and come out of this with open eyes and apply yourself and just make things better. One of the way things make things better is, you're winning teams. You make sure you have the right people on the right seat on the bus. You need to have that. Talk to your people. You should be talking to your people daily, weekly right now. When you bring them back, make sure that you're always in constant contact with them to say, what can we do? What do you see? You may find your team has great ideas and you've never asked them for it. Now's the time to really dig into those people and really talk about what needs to be done. Have a winning team attitude, work as a group, try to get through this together. Put your minds together. You may come up with some type of scenario that you never thought you would be doing a year ago. And a year ago, if I would have told you we'd all been sheltered and home in place for a month, you'd all looked at me as if I was crazy. So think of that. So there may be scenarios out there where you don't know what's going to happen or that your team members may come up with. So just keep that in mind when you're working your plans. Life as we know it is in constant change. So I'm going to show you a little diagram. But again, remember, this is changing day to day to day. So here's the thing. You're going to identify the problem. You're going to analyze that problem, understand it, solve it, execute change, and then assess your change. Now, with the way things are today, you could have a problem come up, find a great solution. 3 days later, something changes where this solution no longer works. You need to be constantly changing yourself right now, constantly evolving, looking at your business cycle, making sure that you're ready to change. So keep that in mind as you do things. Now I'm going to go over some other things to consider as you are, other items to consider during this shutdown. Don't assume that things are going to return to normal. Just because you open the doors doesn't mean that everybody's going to come flying back, that your employees will want to come back. Your employees may decide that they want a job change. They may not come back. They may decide that this is time for them to change things. So again, just don't assume things will resume as normal. And again, don't assume that all your clients are going to come back. Their habits have changed during this 6 weeks. They may find things that they did in the past they may no longer need. And one of those things that they no longer need was the services you provided for them. So just don't assume that they're going to come back to you once you reopen. But what you can do to help with that is make sure that you are keeping in constant contact with them, saying that, we're evolving, we're trying to make our plans to reopen, anything we can do to help you out during this time of change, please let us know. Keep yourself in front of your clients. Don't just assume that they're going to come back just because everything's lifted. Again, be proactive. keep in touch with your contacts, clients all the time. Make your plans, work your plans, be ready to change. There's going to be new restrictions coming up. We don't know what they are, because when everything reopens again, we know that it's not going to be the same. It's going to be, is it going to be groups of 50? Is it going to be groups of 10? Is it going to be groups of 200? Are large venues going to no longer be a thing for people to even go to? Nobody knows, but you know that they're not just going to reopen everything and let it go the way it is. Be proactive, be ready for those changes, make plans for those changes now, and then adjust once you find out what the actual restrictions are. Again, be flexible. Things are changing daily, so must you. You cannot be stuck in your ways. Everything is changing every day. You have to accept change, embrace it, and just realize it's a fact of life right now. So keep going on that. One of the things you can do to help your clients is complete a FEMA test. It's called Failure Modes Effects Analysis. What that basically is, it's basically you document your customer journey from the initial contact with them all the way through the end to when your client is done. It does two things. One, it identifies all of your touch points with your clients, where there may be potential touch points for infections from coronavirus, COVID-19, that you can help alleviate. The customer saying, hey, at this point we know that there's potential contact with us. Here's what we're doing to make sure it doesn't happen. So as an example, you maybe have to deliver something to a client. Maybe you can say, well, we're going to pre-package everything. As we bring it in, maybe you got a disinfectant spray. You can disinfect it, and you can say, my employees were wearing gloves. They're constantly washing their hands. Give that customer that satisfaction that you are taking care about their needs and you are worried about them getting infected. The other part about this FEMA test is you can also then document all your systems and procedures of how you deal with your customers. And you may find points in there that, well, I didn't know we were actually doing this. Maybe we should improve on that. So it not only helps with the infection part, it also will help with you just in your normal business processes, helping you day to day on that. One other thing, stay positive, stay focused. Yes, I realize this is a difficult time for all of us, but being negative is not going to help you out. Stay focused, stay focused, stay focused, and always be positive. There's nothing wrong with always being positive, even though you may think this is a negative time. Remember, we're all in the same boat. We all need to work together. Stay positive, be focused, help people out as much as you can, and just go from there. By staying focused and positive, you will get through this. It is going to end at some point. It's just going to be, at what point we don't know. Is it going to be May 4th? Is he going to lift restrictions, or is he going to extend that? We don't know. Is the federal government can come in? We don't know. There's going to be that battle. So just make sure to always keep up to date on what's changing, what's not, and plan for that within your business and keep going. To end this, remember, we have a strategic plan. It's called doing things. Don't get depressed. Don't get into a cocoon. Make sure that you're always doing something positive, planning out, plan for your next 2 weeks. What's going to happen? Am I going to do this? Am I going to do that? Celebrate those wins. They're going to come few and far between at this point, but make sure to celebrate them. If something great happens, make sure to celebrate with your team, with you. Be positive. Always be doing something, changing something. It's just going to help you get through this. Now, the last thing I'm going to talk about, the last thing I've got is if you would like to talk more to me about this, about either helping you track the expenses during the 8-week cycle, or even doing business coaching or strategic planning together, I'm offering next week for everybody that's on this call I will give you a free 15-minute phone call. We can talk about it, see if it works out for us, see if there's a fit. Or even if you just have some general questions that you want to give out, I'm giving everybody on this call a 15-minute free phone call. You just got to give me a minute or a little bit of time. You're going to be able to schedule it at tpjcpa.com and click on Meet with Tom remotely. I've got to update the site for the 15 minutes free. I just decided on that just before we got online. So with that, I will take questions. Anybody have any questions? Go ahead and type them in the questions and answer box down below. Oh, nothing's coming up yet. So again, just remember, oh, we got one. Let me get here. All right, it's not letting me open. All right. Does a 1099 employee count to the payroll? No, it does not count towards the payroll. It is only 941 employees for the PPP loan. If they were a 1099 employee, they should be applying for that PPP loan all on their own. So again, it's just payroll only. And again, this is going to be a difficult time. Make sure to do your planning. Plan out your 8 weeks. Plan out your 2 weeks at a time. Don't get too far ahead of yourself because everything is going to change. Remember that. Give everybody a couple more minutes. Any other questions? Otherwise, you've got my email address, support@tpjcpa.com. You can send me questions there after the fact. This video will be going up as well on the website as far as past videos. And remember, last week with Brad, he was not only PPP on EIDL loan for SBA loan, he's also does all the SBA loans. So even though those two aren't there, there are other SBA programs he can help you find out and help you do. All right, let's get some more questions. Have you heard of any delays in getting the money to small business? No, I've actually been hearing people getting funded this week. As long as you have the application in and the bank has said to you that your funding is available, but I haven't heard of any delays. Has this sole prop, how should I track expenses when I'm simply paying myself? Would a business account suffice to prove funds used to pay myself? And should I pay expenses from this account for the next 2.5 months? Did you already get a PPP loan? If you've got the PPP loan, it does make sense to set up a separate account and just track your expenses through that 2.5 months. And yes, what they're going to do is they're going to look at, yes, you may pay yourself, but they're going to look at your past history and compare that to currently what you're paying yourself to make sure that you're still within those payroll levels and the number of people that you kept employed. My bank said we are approved for the PPP loan, but haven't sent the papers to sign yet. Should I keep the pressure on? Yes, keep the pressure on. Just check in with them daily. Just saying, yeah, I know that we've got the PPP loan approved. And you can just bring up the point saying, I'm just checking in because I got a payroll coming up and I'd like to have that PPP money for payroll. You may have to adjust the payroll date, but yeah, keep the pressure on the bank because you don't want to get lost in their massive cycles right now. All right. Any other questions? Doesn't look like it for right now. Again, you can email me, support@tpjcpa.com. Also, plan. Don't take anything for granted. Plan out those 2 weeks at a time, even day to day, and be ready for adjustments. As it's like I said earlier, the PPP and the EIDL loans are already fully funded. All the money's been taken so that they're not even taking any more applications. So with that, again, stay focused, stay positive, have a great week, and I'll talk to you soon.